Hello, everybody. How are you guys? We're back with another history video. Of course, this week we're going to be talking about Detroit. And in this case, this is Detroit in the 1800s. Now, keep in mind that this is a central city to the early history of America. It's a linchpin. In fact, at one point it was considered the Far West, if you can believe it. But in the 1800s, the United States lost the city of Detroit to the British in 1812. Now, the entire city? Wait a minute. You lost the entire city. Yes, they lost the entire city to the British in 1812. And that's not the worst of it. They tried to get it back in 1813. Now, originally they just said, hey, man, come on. You know that you guys are not going to get Detroit. This city is on the American side of the river. It's going to be in the United States. Why don't you just give it up? Just give it back. You guys got Windsor. Because they're fighting the British, and you know that Canada is British, is going to be a subject of the crown. But down here in America, we're gonna maintain independence from the crown. We're trying to get away from you guys because we want French fries, we want hamburgers, we want apple pie. We want to be able to eat fried food till our stomachs are bigger than a beach ball. Now, up there in Canada, you guys can stay as fit as you want. You can get out on those snowshoes and run around Winnipeg, run around Saskatoon. We don't care what you do. But you know this city is eventually going to be here in America, and you will not be the supervisor. So why don't you just give it up? Give it back to us, man. You took it, just give it back. We won't say anything. We'll just turn our back, just give it back, and it'll solve a lot of problems. Well, believe it or not, this did not work. And they lost another battle, a second battle. After they lost the city, they tried to get it back and lost it on the second battle. They lost the attempt to regain the city. However, a few months later, they got it back. That's right. Detroit was returned to America, and everyone rejoiced. Finally, we have a home for the Red Wings. Now, the city was incorporated in 1815. Now, this is interesting. The street plan. So if you're going to incorporate your city, you can't just say, okay, we're incorporated now. Everybody have a party. Right? No. You have to have a plan. You can't just go down to the city office and go, hey, man, we want to incorporate the city now. And they go, okay, well, what's your plan for the streets and the parks? How are you going to lay it all out? Just kind of like the way it is now, but yeah, that's good. And they're like, no. You have to have a plan, bro. So what do? They copied the city of Paris. Believe it or not, the street plan for Detroit is based on the City of Lights, Paris, France. That's right. Now, it's not exactly the same because obviously the topography, the geography would be a little bit different, but it's pretty close. Now, they forgot the Eiffel Tower. They completely forgot. Because look, if you just lost the city in 1812, tried to get it back in 1813 and were unable to, but then did get it back later in 1813, a few months later, then you'd be exhausted. You'd be exhausted. You don't have time to think about anything beyond maybe the street grid of Paris. You don't have time to think about the other accoutrements, like a tower. Why didn't they build a tower? Okay, they might have called it the Detroit Eiffel. They might have been called the Detroit Eiffel. Now, it may be that the Eiffel Tower wasn't even in Paris yet. The Eiffel Tower was not always in Paris. That came later. In fact, when the Eiffel Tower first was put in Paris, a lot of people didn't like it because they had this sort of beautiful Parisian vista of trees and low-lying buildings. And they looked at this metal monstrosity pointing up at the sky. They're like, who the hell thought of putting this here? I mean, it's like putting a giant Bob's Big Boy in the middle of Paris to a lot of these people. But nonetheless, whether they forgot or maybe the Eiffel Tower wasn't even invented then, they didn't have one in Detroit. Now, it's not too late. It's not too late. Why doesn't Detroit build an Eiffel-type tower? Eiffel type. It doesn't have to be the same. Because you know that an American Eiffel Tower would have bungee jumping from it. So you'd have to have planks that go off to the side at the very top there that allow people to bungee jump off the side. And you would have to have room at the top for a McDonald's. But with those modifications, why doesn't Detroit do more to boost tourism with this kind of thinking? All right. Now, what are you going to build when you have your Paris sort of modeled streets? Well, because Detroit was booming with shipping and manufacturing and shipbuilding. Those three things, shipping, manufacturing, and shipbuilding, guys were getting rich. The Jeff Bezos and Elon Musks of the day were raking in bank. And what do you do in the Gilded Age when you're pulling in the big buckaroonies? That's right, you build a mansion. So right just off of downtown in Detroit, going both east and west, are these Gilded Age mansions. Now, in Detroit City, you can buy, not necessarily those right on the main drags there, the main boulevards, but there's a number of old big homes in Detroit that you can get very reasonably. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, if you wanted to live that kind of lifestyle with a big fireplace and descending staircases and the whole thing. Now, keep in mind, you'll probably have to renovate it. So you can get the mansion for, let's say, $500,000. You say $500,000, you can buy a house in the suburbs. It's pretty sizable. Well, you haven't seen home prices lately. But you can buy a pretty big old brick house in Detroit for, let's say, $500,000. But it'll probably cost you that much to renovate it and secure it. And the security part is going to be important. So it's not always the best value, but it depends what you want in life. We're all different. So this Gilded Age mansions, and they are beautiful. A lot of these cities in this part of the country, Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, had the same rise, and they all have similar Gilded Age mansions. And to the extent, because you got a picture of the wide boulevards, the big mansions, people strolling along with their finest Sunday best, even though it was Wednesday. And in those days, that was the thing. You would stroll around the neighborhood. That's why they had those big porches. You would stroll around the neighborhood and people would sit on their porch as the neighbors strolled by. Oh, hi, Mrs. Harrison. Oh, hi, Mrs. Ford. Right? That was the entertainment. That was the porch. It almost became like a living room of the neighborhood. And that's where everybody met and chatted and talked as they walked around. Now, I don't know if anybody had a Fitbit. I don't know if anybody had an Apple Watch. I'm not sure. Fitness wasn't even a thing. You were fit if you were rich. That was the breakdown. But all of this created a feeling of Paris to the point where some people called it the Paris of the West. I am not kidding about this. You say, Joe, they never called Paris of the West. They never used that moniker for Detroit. Never. I'm telling you, you got to trust your favorite historian, Uncle Joe. That's exactly what happened. So later on in the 1800s, near the very end of the century, guess who built something that changed the world? That's right, your friend Henry Ford built the first car in the late 1890s in a workshop that he rented on Mack Avenue. This changed the world. Now, it wasn't so much that because his thing was, the main thing that changed the world was the mass production, that it made it affordable for the people that worked at Ford to afford a Ford. Now to afford a Ford, you're talking about a truck, because they don't make cars anymore. And if you're talking about their premier model, which is the Ford F-150, you might be looking at $250,000 to $400,000 for a truck. And when you pay that amount of money for a truck, you're not going to go haul wood. You're not going to go down to the construction site at your job at the construction site. No way. No way. That truck is for cruising around on Friday night with the speakers blasting out of the windows. And you know that those speakers are big enough that they could have been installed at the local drive-in, or maybe as the speakers that you would see at a rock concert. When you pay that amount of money, that's the kind of sound system you get with that kind of truck. And hey, more power to you. I'm not saying you have to work at a construction site or have a truck that shouldn't accommodate 17 people. Your truck should accommodate 17 people and their extended family. Why not? Get grandma in there. Get her in the cab. Get grandpa in the bed of the truck. Okay, but when your truck is a rolling disco that costs as much as an F-16 fighter, well, then it becomes a different type of vehicle. It's not really a truck anymore, from my view. Maybe you have a different opinion. But nobody is hauling firewood or block stones, okay, in the back of their $400,000 truck. It's just not happening. So then Detroit said, you know what? We got a lot going on here. We got Paris of the West. We got Henry Ford doing his thing. We're moving into a new century. We got to get more taxes, because this is how it works in government. They got to get that taxes. It's like taxes to a government, especially a city government, are like donuts to me. I will eat donuts every minute of the day if I could. And so what do? They grew very, very fast in the 1800s by annexing all of the nearby villages. Now, we talked about this in another audio/video. All of those neighborhoods, Palmer Woods, Detroit Gulf, all of those neighborhoods in that video/audio were annexed by Detroit, making it the megalopolis that it is today. The city of music, the city of rock and roll, Motown, all were birthed because it was big enough to generate that tax money in order to get the city up and booming, along with its commercial interests that were already building mansions along the boulevards of the Paris of the West. Well, guys, that is exactly how it came down, with no embellishments and no malarkey. So I hope you enjoyed that. Come on back. We have so much more. We're going to talk about Detroit in the 1900s. And guys, if you thought 1800s was a party with all these mansions being built and everybody walking around like they're in Paris, wait till we get to the 1900s. You're going to say, wow, I had no clue All that was going on in the city we all love, the jewel of Michigan, Detroit Rock City. Come on back for more, guys. We'll see you then.